Hey guys, welcome back everybody. So today we're going to discuss about the CCNP Enterprise ENCOR paper. So in older days, what happened, CCNP has three models, the route, switch, and the troubleshoot. But nowadays what happened, CCNP Enterprise has a one main paper that is called as the ENCOR paper. And there's a multiple concentration paper as well. So if you're looking for the CCNP Enterprise certification, then you need to pass the ENCOR paper. And at the same time, you need to pass the one of the concentration paper. So let's understand what are the syllabus we have, what are the topics we have in the enterprise core, and how you can pass these examinations as well. So this examination is a 120 minutes of the examination. It's a totally objective question. Sometimes, if you are very bad luck, then you will get, some labs as well. But this paper cost is a $400. So if I look for this is a Cisco website. If I look for the exam topics for this one, we have a lot of topics over here, right? Each topics has some weightage over here. So if you look for the architecture, we have a 15%. Our virtualization over here is a 10%. Infrastructure, we have a 30%. Network assurance, we have a 10%. Security, we have a 20%. And automation, we have a 15%, right? This paper is gonna change in the 18 March 2026. So this is something gonna change happen. So right now we have some part of wireless in the CCNP ENCOR, but after the March 18, 2026, the wireless will be removed. So if you see the architecture, right? So in the architecture, we'll talk about what are the two-tier architecture and the three-tier architecture. In the two-tier architecture, we'll talk about the spine and leaf model, like we have a spine switches over here, right? And there is a leaf models, leaf switches we have over here. So how the spine and leaf is going to work. At the same time, what happened, we'll talk about the three-tier architecture as well. So in the three-tier architecture, we have a core layer, right? Then we have a distribution layer, and then we have a access layer. So these are my core layer, these are my distribution layer, and these are my access layer. So what is the difference between the core distribution, right, and the span and leaf architecture as well? So this thing we are going to talk about in the CCNP core. Then we have a high availability like a FHRP and SSO. So FHRP is gonna give you the three flavors. The one we have HSRP, the VRRP, and the GLP as well. Once you have done this part, then you have some part of the wireless, like how you can connect the AP, how you can manage the AP, how you can manage the wireless devices as well. Then once you have done this thing, then you have some part of the SDN solution as well. In SDN, you will have three flavors, like ACI you have for the data center, SD-WAN you have for the wide area networking, and SD-Access you have for the LAN area networking. So in enterprise and core paper, what happened, you do not have an ACI portion, you have a SD-WAN plus SDA portion. So in the SD-WAN, we'll talk about what is the working principle, what are the components we have in the SD-WAN, like what are the controllers we have it, how the OMP protocol is working, how the policy is working. All these things we are going to discuss, but these are the theory one, not the practical one. Same thing, we'll talk about the SD-Access, how the LIPS is going to working, how the VXLAN is going to working, right? What are the controllers we have in the SDA? That's we're going to talk about in the SD-Access. Once we have done this part, then you have a QS part as well. So QS is just gonna give you the flexibility that how you can manage the bandwidth, delay, and the jitter as well. So you can deploy the QS for the wireless and the wire as well, right? So normally what happen, if you see in mostly production network, what happen, you do deploy the quality of service to manage the bandwidth requirement. Once you have done this part, then you have some hardware and software switching mechanism, which is called the CEF, CAM table, FIB table, and TCAM table, and of course RIB and adjacency table. So these are the tables that some are the layer 2 table and some are the layer 3 tables. Based on this table, what happened, the switches and router will decide where should I forward the packet. So once we have done this 15%, right, then you have a 10% virtualization. In the virtualization, we'll talk about the type 1 and type 2 virtualization. Like you can do the virtualization on your local system as well. At the same time, you can do the virtualization on the EXXI server as well. Then after that, we have a concept of the VRF, right? So with the help of VRF, what happened? You have a single hardware router. You can divide or you can create the multiple virtual routing table for every customer. So think about it, like you have a 10 customer, right? And you cannot give the dedicated router for the 10 customer. So in that case, what happened? You need to do the virtualization on the router. This kind of concept is called the VRF. You can call it layer 3 virtualization. Then after that, we have a concept of the GRE and IPsec tunneling. GRE is offering you the foundation of the VPN. So let's say example, you have a branch of a CE1 in the Delhi, And then you have a branch office in the CE2 in the Bangalore. And if you want to connect this guy, we have a service provider over here right now. Now, the thing is that the C1 has a private network 10.1.1.0/24, and the C2 have a 10.1.2.0/24. These private network. If you want to route this private network, what happens? You need to create the VPN tunnel over here, because this private network is not routable over the internet, right? So we can create the GRE tunnel between the C1 and C2, and we can route these routes over the tunnel. Now, this tunnel that you see, the GRE tunnel, it's a purely clear text VPN, right? It means that whatever the data that you're sending over this VPN tunnel, it is not secure. So if you want a security, then you need to bring a beautiful person that's called as a IPsec over here. Right? So IPsec is a protocol, right, that's gonna encrypt your data. So only the legitimate user can decrypt the data. Only the legitimate user can understand your data. So if the attacker is there in between, they cannot understand your data. So if you want a security over the GRE, you can implement the IPsec protocol. Then after that, we have a interesting concept, LIS and the VXLAN. Basically, these two protocols are majorly used in the data center network. But Cisco has put this concept in the enterprise level as well, because sometimes what happens, people are deploying the LIPS and VXLAN in the enterprise. Which scenario? A very well-known scenario is the SDA. So if you're implementing the software-defined access, or we can call the SDN solution in the LAN environment, in that case, what happens? You need to deploy the LIPS and VXLAN. And for that reason, you must need to know the LIPS and VXLAN. These things are not in the practical, but in the theory way. But the good thing is that in the CCIE Hub, we are giving the practical knowledge of the LIPS and VXLAN as well. Once we have done with the 10% of the virtualization, right, we have a infrastructure over here. In the infrastructure, we'll talk about the layer 2 infra, where we're going to talk about the VLAN, trunking protocol, CDP, DTP, VTP protocol, RSTP, MSTP, and the spanning tree protocol, those things, right? Then after that, we'll talk about forget that. We have also discussed how we can improve the spanning tree security, right? By enabling the root guard, by enabling the BPD guard, BPD filter, loop guard, UDLD. These things we are discussing in the layer 2 infra. The layer 3 infra is going to talk about the routers, where you're going to implement the routing protocols like OSPF version 2, 3, EIGRP protocol, BGP, how you can enable the authentication, how you can do the summarization, and many more things. So layer 2 and layer 3, right? Once you have done with the layer 2 and layer 3, then you have a concept of the wireless. Same one, like how you can define how you can deploy the AP, how you can manage the APs network, like how you can connect your PC to the APs. These things we're going to discuss in the wireless section. Last but not least, in the wireless, we are also going to learn about the troubleshooting behavior as well. These things in CCIE Hub we are doing in the lab perspective as well. Now, mostly if you see over here, they are mentioned that describe the layer 1 concept, describe the AP modes, describe the access point, describe the main principle. So here we have it's the only theory part, but the good thing is that we have a lab portion in the lab. Sorry, in CCIE Hub. Okay, the last but not least in the infrastructure, we have IP services, right? So IP services is a concept where you can deploy the NAT, like your private IP can translate into the public IP. The NTP protocol, the PTP protocol, right? PTP, you can say that it's an advanced version of the NTP, right? Then you have a first hop redundancy protocol like HSRP and VRP. GLBP is not a part of the CCNP Enterprise. Then we have a multicast protocol, like how you can perform the loop prevention through the RPF check. Like a PIM protocol, the PIM has two modes, the dense and sparse, and the IGMP version 2 and 3. So these all things are the described way, but we do the lab as well. Once we have done this part, virtualization, sorry, not infrastructure, then we have a network assurance. Remember one thing, infrastructure part is have a highly weightage in the ENCOR exam. It's contained the 30% section. So if you're planning to give the ENCOR exam, right, you will get the more question from here only, like the routing protocols, switching protocols, multicasting, and the IP services. Okay, now we have our network assurance, right? As the name itself suggests that it's assurance. So you need to understand how you can enable the SNMP, how you can enable the syslog, In a simple language, right? You just need to know what is the health of the devices, what happened, right? If the interface goes down, if the interface come up, right? What happened if the, routing protocol goes down and routing protocol up, how the network engineer will get to know that. So if something is happening on the router side, so we need to use some protocol over here, some mechanism over here, so that the network engineer will get to know that. So we have a SNMP, syslog, ping, traceroute. These are the commands. Based on that, we can troubleshoot the network, right? Then we have a span, rspan, and espan. Based on the span, you can easily monitor the traffic on the particular node. These are the very important topic for the production network perspective. Because in the production network, what happened most of the time, you need to identify is that interface is receiving the traffic or not. So in that case, what happened, you can deploy the span and you can monitor the interface traffic as well. Now then we have a DNA center, right? That's a part of the SDA. And then we have finally configure the netcom and the restcom. These are the part of the automation. So we have a separate automation batch for the ENCOR as well. So once you have done with the network assurance, then we have a 20% have a security portion. In the security, we'll talk about the AAA, right? Authentication, authorization, and accounting. When the user has logged in, what they have done it. So everything you will get to know that like by the AAA. So we have two protocols over here, Radius and TACX. Then after that, we'll talk about the ACL, how you can deploy the ACL and how you can prevent the, so how you can enable the security on the router and switcher side by enabling the hoop mechanism. Then after that, we have a lot of authentication mechanism. We have like a 80.1x authentication, web authentication, and the PSK as well. Once we have done this part, then we'll talk about some concept of the firewall and the MACsec as well. So MACsec is the new way to do the authentication, right? Then we have a MAB as well. Once we have done with the 20% of the security, then we have a automation 15%. In the automation, we'll talk about the scripting, right? Then we'll talk about the JSON, right? We talk about the Yang model. We talk about the Puppet, Ceph, and Sable as well. Then we'll talk about the EMM applet. EMM is simple logic, right? So let's example, you have a router over here and you want to enable some behavior on the router side. Let's example, your interface goes down and you want to see that, okay, if the interface goes down, this log will be updated. In that case, you can enable the EMM scripting on the router side. So these are the total syllabus we have for the ENCOR portion only. By finishing all this syllabus, right, you will have a clear picture of the examination portion, right? So you must need to clear all this all this topic before appearing for the CCNP ENCOR exam. Remember that CCNP ENCOR exam, you can take online, right? Through the home, from the home as well. And you can also go to the Pearson Center. But for the Pearson Center, what happened, you need to book the date first of all. So thank you so much, guys. I'll see you in the next video.